My name is Todd Wahl. My wife and I own iTrip Vacation, Sarasota and Bradenton. Individually, my wife and I purchased a cabin, our own investment property, I guess 2.5 years ago, and similar to iTrip, we hired a company that was the actual property management for us. And through that, I kind of befriended the individual that owned it, and I actually had spent probably a full day with him kind of consulting as just an outside consultant. He was struggling. It was during COVID times. There were some real issues, and we really turned the business around. I think, increased his earnings almost fivefold. Quality was great. Employees were great. So, it was nothing I'd ever had an experience with, but it opened me up to the property management kind of localized vacation model and kind of systems and processes. So that was just by chance that occurred, and it really had no meaning other than it was just something I had done for a friend and just was part of my experience. So fast forward, I had been in corporate America, as I said, for 30 years, and after I was done with the acquisition, it was now kind of how we grow this out nationally. And to be frank, it wasn't really the challenge that I've had for the past 10 or 15 years. And with my age, it was also, I've got 10, 15 years left, and do I really want to, kind of put it all in one place? And, I also kind of want to work for myself, and I want to look for those opportunities. So I think November, December of last year, kind of sat down with the owner of the business and decided to kind of get a transitional plan and to walk away. And I looked at, a lot of franchises. And I was looking at the time, looking for a franchise that was for resale as opposed to starting from scratch. And so that's kind of where my journey, and it's a long journey, but that's where iTrip kind of fit into play, is that it was one of 14 or 15 franchises that I looked at. And there was just there was attractiveness because, first of all, this is an industry that I've been in for 20, 30 years, so I kind of understand the general rules. Clearly, the vacation is a little different than what I've done, so understanding the behavior of the property owner from the vacation is definitely a transition. With the franchise itself, that was the other attractiveness. I had kind of the property management that we felt good about. We felt very strong about the economic kind of futuristic forecasts and what that looked like. And then when you added it with kind of the franchise best practices behind it, where we really could look at how we could run it. And again, the growth is another part of it. I should add that in there. We're not someone who's going to hit the ground and say, hey, we want to double or triple. I mean, arguably, probably for the first 6 months, our job is to kind of make sure everything stays the way that it is. But we're in a market right now which is top 5 market, and we're doing 42 properties where the couples north of me are doing 160, 180. So we're really excited about what the future can really hold in terms of business development and kind of what the next 2 or 3 years can yield in terms of the projections and the trajectory of the business itself. Understanding what was the financial attractiveness, as well as, I guess to paraphrase to a degree, what are the attractive levers that are really within that financial component that was attracted? And I think the first answer to the question is that, one, I've had some familiarity, so it wasn't something that I didn't quite understand. And from that mentality, it's a very simplistic process, I feel. It's really, how do you provide 5-star service to your guests as well as your clients? I mean, that's really the name of the game. And I think knowing that it's that linear, and knowing that cleaning, maintenance, and each one of these components to a degree are controllable, that's really attractive. It's not as if the cleaning can't go bad. It's not as if things can't go bad. They can't. But I think in other businesses, there's much more volatility within the variables of those expenses that it's not just a modeling and a forecasting, but it's also kind of an adherence to projections and how much risk or how much variance is just going to be in a model. So that was a big part of it, being able to see and touch and feel like there's not a lot behind there, or a misstep is going to be 2%, 3% as opposed to a 20 or 30%. And I think that's really, again, knowing how many pieces are in that equation is, to me, and I maybe a little too simplistic of an approach, but that kind of puts the risk in what my accuracy is going to be. And so I think that was a big attractiveness to it. So, yes, I think buying the business for me was critical because of the fact that those things were already set up and we could get into more of an operational capacity from the beginning as opposed to a new business development. But I think that would have been true for me throughout. I think it was just that the franchise kind of helped accelerate that, or gave me I didn't have to go as deep in the due diligence to ensure that, yes, Daniel's telling me he does this and this and this, and I can, but how do you really know? And that to me is that trust factor. Well, I've got 12 years of 100 people every month doing the same thing that, is going to provide some significant intelligence. Whereas, Paul just running his business, it's, I don't want to say it's a crapshoot because that's not fair. You're going to do your homework. You're going to get the attorneys. You're going to do your diligence. But how do you really know? And I think that was, when you're putting up everything that you worked for, it's important to understand that, you feel good about what's on the other side, because like anything else, you don't know until you're in there. What do you really know until you're in the house and living in it? So I've been working and have been successfully providing income to 2 owners for 30 years that, 10% of that was my take and 90% was theirs, because they made the tough decision and they ponied it all up and they put it all on the line at some point and said, you know what, I'm willing to throw it all on the table and let's see what happens. And that's where I'm at. I think I'd be remiss not to bring up 2 components. One being age. Part of why I left where I left is I've got 10, 15 years left and I want to do something with it. And I want to do something different. And so I think that's, part of what is a drive to me that maybe wasn't there 15 years ago. 2 would be my wife. My wife has been blessed to be able to be a stay-at-home mom for I guess almost 18 years. We have 2 wonderful boys, but they are also a mega challenge. So she's probably had tougher jobs than I've had for the past 15 or 20 years. So getting an opportunity for her really to spread her wings, for us to be able to work together, really awesome.